The Black Studies program at Cleveland State University welcomes you to this season of Images, a public affairs radio forum dedicated to open dialogue on a variety of diverse topics of interest and issues of concern, which focus on the life and experiences of African Americans and all peoples of African descent. By visiting our website at www.csuohio.edu/blackstudies or calling 216-687-3655, you can learn more about upcoming Black Studies program events and activities. Now, here is your host for Images.
And welcome to Images. I'm Prester Pickett, your host for this broadcast of Images. We're very fortunate to have a conversation with the director of the Cleveland Treatment Center today. We will be talking about their production of The Bluesmen. The Bluesmen, which involves one of our CSU alumna, Michael Oatman's MFA, who has written this stage play as an adaptation of Rob Vollmer's Bluesmen, the book. And it is starring Peter Lawson Jones, who is at the table with us again. Peter Lawson Jones, welcome to Images.
Always good to be in your presence, Prester.
We also will be featuring Billy Seward. He is the music director for this piece and is a national recording artist, joining us here in Cleveland as a first-time visitor to Cleveland State through Black Studies, and then literally getting off the plane, leaving Florida weather, joining our Cleveland rain. So we definitely would be singing about some blues experience here in Cleveland with you. Thank you and welcome to Images, sir.
I'm very excited to be here.
We also have a conversation with Peter London. And Peter London will be talking about his music background as a blues performer. And then we'll have the roundup conversation again with the director of the Cleveland Treatment Center, Mr. Lynn Collins. Everybody, welcome to Images.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Great
having
to
us.
be here.
Let's have you, Mr. Collins, introduce this project. How are we associated with Black Studies and the efforts of Dr. Adrian Gosselin in connecting us to the interests of the Bluesmen and our alumnus, Michael Oatman?
First, I think we go way back, 1989. You and myself kind of co-founded the program, Light It Ride, Camry for Life. It was co-founded through a grant from the Adams Board through Black Studies. So kids are involved in theater, music production, video production, creative writing, and now music through Berkeley School of Music. So yourself, Dr. Goslin, and Professor Bond over the communication departments, and along with Beck Center were the key folks that developed this program. So thank you very much.
With now the production of Bluesman, how was this piece selected, and then how did you go about identifying Mike Oatman to write the piece, and then our professor now, our instructor, Eric Schmiedel, who actually teaches out of the Howard A. Mims African American Cultural Center with a course that instructs our students here at Cleveland State about how to adapt a piece from the page to the stage. Please, how was this done?
Well, it started with our staff. We're trying to do something new for Cleveland. So 4 years ago, we got the rights to do Incognito, and that was the first piece we did, New York Times bestseller. Then we also talked to Mr. Vollmer at the time. He gave us right to do this, but it took us 3 years to get it up and going. And because Michael had also worked with our program through you guys, through Black Studies, and also through an internship through Beck Center for Arts, he's a natural fit.
And he has his Neo MFA from
Yes.
Cleveland State
Yes.
University's partnership in that program.
He's awesome.
With this piece now, we are returning with the brilliance and the outstanding talent of equity actor Peter Lawson Jones, appearing on stages, even continuing your relationship with Eric Schmiedel, the director who just produced at the Beck Center Member of the Wedding, and you were featured in that, and now you're moving on with this. I don't see a break in your schedule. I don't know how
I had
you're
one
doing
day
this.
off. The Member of the Wedding closed at the Beck on Sunday, and Tuesday evening I was rehearsing for Bluesman. But let me say this, it's This is probably at least the third collaboration with Eric, the second consecutive one, and I so enjoy working with him. He's extremely collaborative, very easy to get along with, extremely talented in his direction, so it's always a pleasure and a privilege. But this is also my fourth project, I think, with Cleveland Treatment Center and Let It Ride, Game Ready for Life program. We started with the Ted Ginn piece.
Ted Ginn Sr. story.
Ted Ginn Sr., which I believe was brilliantly written by none other than Prester Pickett.
There you go.
And then Incognegro, and then the Donald Malloy story, a kind of stage reading that was held here at Cleveland State last spring.
Yes.
And now Bluesman.
And then again, acknowledging Eric Schmidl with his MFA as well. So we see this body of individuals with MFAs collaborating and working together in partnerships. And again, finding these partnerships through the Cleveland Treatment Center. There are now partnerships as well that extend us into our international community, our national community, with our special guest out of Florida, Billy Seward. Can you introduce yourself to our listening audience and how you are going to be engaged in Cleveland because of these efforts with edutainment and the Cleveland Treatment Center and their production of Bluesmen by Michael Oatman, MFA, CSU alum?
Well, I was introduced to LC through Peter London. I met Pete through a friend, and he invited me up to do some shows. And I'm based in Florida, as you know now. And I found Cleveland to be amazing. I'm actually thinking of moving up here, believe it or not. It's crazy, I know.
We hope so.
Yeah. So Pete's been working with LC, and some young singers have been brought into some of the shows, and I had the opportunity to work with a young singer, Stephen Jones.
Yes.
And I was thinking about what kind of songs, and I came up with a couple old tunes that had the dual harmonies. And so I think it was maybe the last time it came up, and the time before that we sang I'm Your Puppet and a Sam Cooke tune, That's Where It's At. And so I was really drawn into the whole idea of these young kids embracing the music and this older style music that sometimes is overlooked a little bit.
Now, Pete London, the Black Studies program is celebrating our 50-year anniversary here at Cleveland State University with a number of past directors of the program. One of the past directors was Professor Curtis Wilson, and he loved the blues, and he taught the blues through a curriculum here in the Black Studies program. Teach us why this blues music is so important and how it's been a part of your life and your background, as we will continue actually the legacy of Professor Curtis Wilson with a connection to this play through the Black Studies program and this Images broadcast.
Well, it's a huge part of my life. I've always loved all kinds of music.
Even got you choked up a little.
That's
huh?
right.
All right.
No, it's just I love all kinds of music, American music, really, pretty much, and blues. Like many, I'm 63 years old now, but like many people of my generation, it was an evolution. I listened to sort of the rock bands of the day in the 60s and 70s, Cream and Led Zeppelin. There's a band, Jay Giles Band. Those were, rock bands, but they were all blues-based, and I've always had a curiosity. And so from those bands, it led me back to some of the originators, people like Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, John Lee Hooker, and then some of the soul groups as well, like Sam and Dave. So I've just always loved music, always listened to music. Anyone who's at my house when I come home, Billy can attest to that. I turn on the radio, or I still have a vinyl, lots of vinyl, and in terms of my performing, it was sort of an evolution too. I never really played an instrument when I was young. Most people that are in bands, they were in high school bands, garage bands. I played the recorder back in third grade or whatever, as we all probably did, and that was it. And I was drawn to the sound of amplified harmonica, and in blues, harmonica, it's also called a Mississippi saxophone because it's generally played through an amplifier, and it gives it a whole different tone. And I was, yeah, and I was drawn to that actually from, again, the band, the Jay Giles band. And it's like, wow, I love that sound. And I picked up harmonica my last year of college. I went to Oberlin, but not for music at all. I was just a government poli-sci major.
Not just. You were a government
that's right.
major. Okay.
That's right.
I was a government major at another institution, so
I know.
we all ended up in the arts.
And with that, and with music bringing us to this common table, if you will, Peter Lawson Jones, the Black experience in this production, can you represent that discussion? And then, without telling the full story, because we want to engage an audience without any spoiler alerts, but what is this story about, and how does it engage the conversation of a Black community and then a larger, greater Cleveland community of all the cultures and backgrounds that we want to invite to come out and see this piece?
Well, a couple of things. And you ask of the other gentleman named Peter, who's sitting here around the table, why the blues? And I actually have a line in the play in which I talk about the blues relationship to every other and so many forms of music, rock, R&B, rap, soul, funk, country, jazz, even ska, the Caribbean beat. So what I've always enjoyed about the Cleveland Treatment Center productions is their universality. And the fact, and I think you were the first person I ever heard use this phrase, and you alluded to it earlier.
Edutainment.
Edutainment.
Education and entertainment wedded.
Combined.
It's not
welded.
my term,
not one or the other,
but it is a term that we've given this active description of what it is by the work that we've been doing with the Cleveland Treatment Center now for decades. But yes.
And I always, whenever I use that term, I attribute it to you.
Well, again, it's been passed on from me. Chuck D, Sister Soldier, even our own Silver B is involved with this language here in Cleveland of edutainment. But now you're
so
involved
these pieces
with it.
are from Cleveland Treatment Center always have that as a strong element. And I think any good play, any good production, any good film, any good movie might tell the story of a particular culture. In this case, most of the characters in this piece are African American, but it tells a universal story in sepia tones, in bronze tones, and I think that's what's done so well in this particular project. And so it's heavily musically infused with blues music and even some other forms of reference during the production. But it also has a fascinating story that's based in the graphic novel from which it was adapted, a story of two bluesmen traveling through the South in 1929, find themselves in the home of what ultimately became the cradle of a president, Bill Clinton, find themselves in Hope, Arkansas, and they're offered a music contract, and then things happen.
The drama occurs.
Then the drama begins.
And it's all about even utilizing drama, conflict on stage to be a tool to instruct our youth, to see how dramatic climaxes can be avoided, if you will. So that leads into your education component, Mr. Collins. Can you talk about that as well?
I did want to say that you cannot examine that period of time in American history without touching on issues of race. And the ugly history of the United States in that regard. So there are elements of that are also part of the education that an audience receives while seeing, but not given in a pedantic way, not lectured, or you aren't being hectored.
That's the entertainment
you're
part.
You're being delivered the message in a very entertaining way so that you don't even know that you've learned something by the time you've left.
And that's part of our interest with Project 400 through the office of Dr. Ronnie Dunn, is directing us on attention to the 400 years since 1619 and the way we have been creative with the arts in helping to make a difference and having some serious conversations about some very serious material and allowing people to open up and discuss things, because it is through these discussions that we gain greater awareness of each other. Mr. Collins, now that greater awareness with this next generation that possibly sometimes don't even understand why there is conflict that has been transferred from previous generations into their generation. Can you talk about the educational component and how this piece is engaging a next generation on stage, and hopefully too in the audience, and then even the potential of a curriculum developing in engaging our youth with the arts and the work that the Cleveland Treatment Center is doing?
I think it's twofold, or a lot of different levels. I think we have Let It Rise, a youth program. So our youth have been provided internships through Peter's band, also along to work with professionals in acting and theater, and have a professional staff, Eric and Mike, who are well known in this arena, educating them about theater and art. So it prepares them. So we have alumni that pretty much are around the country now doing theater and music and stuff like that. But I think the bigger piece is that thanks to, I'm just keep it real, man. Thanks to Mr. Peter, believing in our program, we're able to talk about topics other people run from. But we're also able to talk about them in an entertaining way. Mm-hmm. So people are going to learn. It's a prodigal son story. It's about a guy who's making some choices, some bad choices, and he changes and he evolves. So there's some gospel music, so some spirituality in the play too. Mm-hmm. So it talks about keeping your faith and staying persistent in your mission no matter what you go through. So it's a lot of education. There's a lot of times young people, especially African American folks, feel like they're beat down, and this is a way of fighting through that.
Mm-hmm. So even in feeling like they're beaten down,
right,
this discussion of mental health
right,
becomes a part of the formula that the Cleveland Treatment Center is addressing with this piece. Let's make certain that our audience knows about the date of this production, because sometimes time slips away and we're like, oh, we forgot to even talk about when this is occurring. How will our listening audience acquire tickets? What is the direction on how to get people to where to see this production? We're supporting it with our Black Studies interests, but the Cleveland Treatment Center is producing it. So with that, please give the instructions to our listening audience.
I'm not going to take any chances of,
That's right,
of fumbling this particular question. I want to make sure that the information I provide is absolutely accurate, so I have one of our hot cards.
There
for
you are.
Bluesman. There are 3 performances. Friday, November 29th, the day after Thanksgiving at 7 p.m. Saturday, November 30th at both 2 and 7 p.m. All 3 performances are at the beautiful Breen Center for the Performing Arts, which is on the St. Ignatius campus at 2008 West 30th Street on the near west side, right over the bridge for those of us who are East Siders. And we don't need to bring our passports. And the tickets are free. They're complimentary. They're gratis.
But there is a registration process, RSVP
absolutely
required, by calling.
Call Sue Templer or Pierre Betts, who are the coordinators for the production, at 216-861-4246. That's Sue Templer or Pierre Betts, 216-861-4246. Or you can also email pbetts, P-B-E-T-T-S, at clevelandtreatmentcenter.org. pbetts at clevelandtreatmentcenter.org. And it's just that easy to get your free tickets, and I think you can request as many as you can use.
Yes, you can.
Now, continuing our conversation with you, Mr. Jones, your political career engaged you with this discussion and an awareness of how to engage the community. Can you talk about what you saw that inspired you to consider how the arts could be employed, how we could extend conversations about parenting through the utilization of the arts, and then how you became an actor extraordinaire, actually. So with that, you're applauded in that transition from career to career. But let's go back to that political career and what caught your attention about the arts as a politician.
Well, the first thing, I believe that the seeds were planted in my youth for my appreciation of the arts. Although I didn't really act in a play until I was in college, maybe some church plays, maybe there was a skit in class, I grew up at a time if you're a student in the Cleveland Public School system, you were exposed to the Cleveland Museum of Art, you were exposed to Severance Hall, you were exposed to theater. And so I had an appreciation from my earliest days of the power of the arts. And I was fortunate during my political career not to have forgotten about that and to have become friends with the gentleman Tom Shorgle, who I think played the pivotal role in making Cuyahoga County #1 in the country when it comes to the amount of public dollars per capita that are devoted to arts and cultural organizations and to support artists throughout our county. And Tom was head at that point of a Cleveland Partnership for Arts and Culture. And so in working with him to establish Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, which has provided millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars to the arts community over the last 10 years since its existence, and also is a primary funder and sponsor of Cleveland Treatment Center's artistic endeavors. I was able to parlay my interest and appreciation for the arts and my political position to make something positive happen for our community. In terms of me making the transition from politics to arts, one, I had been an elected official for 22 years, which was a long and glorious and sufficient ride. I'm fortunate in that if you had asked me when I was 10 years old, what did I want to do in life, I would have told you I'd like to be a professional baseball player because that was the popular sport of the time when we were growing up.
Chris Speaker Little League.
Yeah, absolutely. A little F and big F in the Cleveland Baseball Federation. That I would like to become an actor and I'd like to get involved in politics. And I told somebody just a few days ago that I don't believe in work. I believe in diligence. I believe in being industrious, but I think you ought to pick something you do in life that you absolutely enjoy so it doesn't feel like work. So I've been very blessed and fortunate that my years in politics as an elected official did not feel like work, nor has my time as an artist. But I give all credit to Terrence Spivey, who struck up conversations with me at Karamu House when I was watching the first play that I wrote when it was staged there. And when he found out that I had previously acted almost 30 years ago and that I knew a little something about theater, he invited me to participate in a stage reading, and then after that another stage reading, and the bug that I thought that had been completely extinguished to perform and to act on stages or ultimately in film or in TV was rekindled, reborn, and I ended up, it's been 11 years now since I returned to the stage.
We'll have to continue to watch your career develop and then even now learn of new careers with Mr. Seward, in thinking that we have the attention of local elected officials paying attention to what the Cleveland Treatment Center is doing, that it has this history. Even my connection with Tom Shorgle when CPAC was forming and doing its work, and that interest of being aware of diversity and bringing in cultural factors that could allow African Americans to have a piece of the pie, if you will. Your conversation about the arts and what you think our elected officials should hear about the arts based on your experience, as well as you, Mr. London. Can you chime in on that discussion of the arts, and now particularly in reference to music as a representation and ambassador of the peoples, if you will?
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be an overstatement to say that music can be transformative, and it is transformative, and as other arts. But music seems to have a power and a hold, and affects young people. And so when you know that that's a medium and can be a medium for change, positive change, then to me it's just fundamental that we grew up, there was arts in the school, and then they took it away. My kids didn't have a music program when they're grown now. But to me, when I see how these kids, young and old, and even us at this stage of the game, I still get very excited and passionate about the arts, and in particular, the music, the music that came out of the African American culture. And I'm not black, but at the same time, I've been profoundly moved and felt profoundly directed to communicate this. And however it works. And I can't explain it, but I will say that when I see these young kids, and LC brought me into a session with these kids, and I was blown away by their enthusiasm and the energy. And I think that's just, the world needs more of that. Mm-hmm. The world we live in has a lot of things going on, but when you see the good that comes from that and the power of that, I want to be involved in that. And I'm really excited about being involved with this play because the collaborative nature, and Pete mentioned that, the director, Eric Schmiedel, I'm really excited about, and the music that LC has seemed to pull into it. So I don't know, I feel fortunate to be involved in this, and so.
And I just think it's essential, it's important that government get involved. The kind of sad irony is, I guess it's the thing of, in your own home you're not always appreciated, but American music, blues music, soul music, jazz, is many times more appreciated across the world. And in fact, a lot of times European countries, the governments actually help subsidize. So a lot of American artists that used to tour the United States find that they can't do it as often and as well. And so they actually have to go to Europe, go to Australia. And yet, as you said, in Cuyahoga County, luckily it's been supported. And there's some great collaborations. One of the places that Blue Lunch plays is the Bop Stop. Mm-hmm. And the Bop Stop is a world-class jazz facility, but it's also part of a nonprofit. It's part of the Cleveland Music Settlement.
So we'll have a chance to even see the history lessons, our own history, yes. Cuyahoga County history, Cleveland history, as we see the Cleveland Treatment Center helping to make Cleveland, Cuyahoga County an edutainment mecca. We're unfortunately sad to announce that news has come to the Black Studies program, Howard A. Mims African American Cultural Center, about the passing of Norma Freeman. It's been devastating this year with so many losses in our community, Dr. A. Grace Lee Mims, but these legacies is something that we're attentive to. We're attentive to through the Black Studies program with our local histories, because these individuals like Norma Freeman have made world history because they've been able to impact our community, that made a difference on someone's life, that went out and changed the world in some way. So her legacy is respected here through the Howard A. Mims African American Cultural Center and acknowledged on this radio show. We have a Kuumba Arts Festival scheduled for Saturday, December 7th. So we invite our listening audience to come out to see that at 6 p.m. in Berkman Hall Auditorium. Call 216-687 3655 for more information about that. We thank you all for making this world culture possible through the Black Studies program and you joining us here on Images. We also thank our listening audience for tuning in to Images.
You have been listening to Images, a public affairs radio program produced by the Cleveland State University Black Studies program and this station. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cleveland State University, the Black Studies program, or the station. We hope you have enjoyed the music performed by the Jazz Heritage Orchestra. If you are interested in finding out more about the Black Studies program, call 216-687-3655 or visit our website at www.csuohio.edu/blackstudies.